right? So there are many activities. Say, for example, if I am delivering a lecture and my students are listening, this is also an activity which a person are doing into a classroom. If I am interacting with my students, if some discussion is going on, some activities are going on, some presentation from students' side is going on, some research interactions are going on, these all are the activities which we carried out in the classroom when we are teaching to our students. Now, there are, as I have written here, there are certain norms which are built up, because we know that when there is a group of people, those who are gathered for a specific purpose, here the purpose is teaching, learning, or the purpose is learning. So they are gathered together. It means the norms are built up. Norms is we all know that these are the set of standard which each and every people have to follow when they are gathered at certain place. So when we are talking about classroom management, it also has its principles which is to be followed, which we'll talk in, into the coming period of time. Now, again, the classroom consists of those conditions that promote or prevent or simulates, checks the characteristic activities of the pupil. Here, what we do, we promote certain activities, we stimulate certain behavior, we understand certain behavior from the students, we observe that even students are observing each other, students are observing the teacher, and many conditions which are arising into a classroom wherein we have to have a certain type of learning happening at each and every point of a time. This definition was given by John Dewey. When we are talking about classroom behavior, because if we have to understand the classroom, we also have to understand a behavior. So when we are talking about classroom, we know that it is an integral part of teaching learning process, and that is why the discipline is very important. And to understand the classroom management and to understand, to maintain the discipline into a classroom, discipline not by force, because here we are dealing with a human. So when we are talking about discipline, it should have a certain norms, as I told earlier. And that is why, first of all, we have to understand the behaviors which are happening into the classroom. So more of them and all are very important, because when students are behaving in certain fashion, we have to understand their intentions, their purposes, their learning, their intellectual abilities, their social cultural background. Everything is responsible for the behavior. So people do think in the context of the groups that they would never do alone. Classroom may we always have a group of students sitting with each other, sitting in front of us. So when we are put forwarding certain activities, or when we are put forwarding certain problem solving items, and especially in higher education context, when we are dealing with a certain progressive problems wherein we ask for a solution from the students, or we are explaining certain concept to them at their level, there is a group of people who are sitting in front of you, they are discussing amongst them, and they are like to understand the things in the individual perspective. So it is morely a group thinking, group understanding than an individual. Of course, the perception is individualistic, but you are delivering to the group of its students. Now, and this is very common into a classroom behavior. Many of us have some time or the other time have experienced this. This is the misbehavior. So what is this misbehavior? And why do students misbehavior? To understand this misbehave is very important. Sometimes it happens that they are bored. Sometimes they don't even know that why you are presenting certain concept in front of them. They even at times not in a position to apply the informations which are being provided by teachers into the classroom, to the application part of it. Then there is the interaction, which, say for example, the class or the lecture which I am taking today may find very uninteresting for some of the people. So at that time, what do? They stop listening. They start certain type of activities which they will certainly try to distract the teacher. So this is the misbehave, very common into the class. Then the pace of interactions. Either the teacher is very fast or very slow, or maybe the language problem on a part of a teacher can also occur this type of activities or this type of a behavior in students. So the pace, the language, and the teacher, or maybe the student, there is a certain dynamism exist into a classroom group. So it happens, sometimes it happens, it is not always, but sometimes it happens that there is not enough interaction amongst the students and less interactions amongst the teacher and students. So if you have a very, very less interaction in your classroom, certainly it happens that the students may lose their interest. If they lose their interest, that can be a cause of a misbehave into a classroom. Here are some of the examples of a misbehave I have listed. So, going ahead, the another, as I told you, the discipline. They even at times become indisciplined. That is due to lack of living role model. They don't find the teacher very impressive to them, right? They don't able to connect their context with a living role model. So that can be one of the cause. Then commercialization of education, changing focus from learning to the rote memorization can be one of the cause, and at times the overcrowded classrooms. Because we know that if one single teacher is there and the strength is, say for example 60 or 70, certainly it becomes for a teacher at times to manage them very effective. Management becomes a challenge. The another is the media exposure. We are very we all are very much aware about it. I will share certain research studies which has been taken place on this media exposure. Then parental orientation, because we know that the higher education students, though they have grown up, they are definitely matured than the school students, but still the parental support, the parental interaction amongst the parents and the students and the parents and teachers becomes very, very important for effective classroom management, because parents play a very key role in managing the behavior and controlling their children. So the parental orientation is also equally important. Then teacher-student relationship. If we do not have a cordial relationship with the students, then also certain type of things are possible that the classroom will not be a effective classroom. The teacher's ability, this is very important, because when we are talking about teacher's role, our ability to deal with the concept, our ability to handle the queries from the students, our ability to solve their query at the satisfaction level of a particular students. Sometimes it happens that I do have answered the question of the students, but I'm not bothered whether the student is satisfied with that answer or not. So at times this ability is very, very important. Then the self-esteem of a students must be given a due consideration when you are talking about effective classroom management. Of course, this is very bitter. It may sound bitter, but this is a fact to an extent, not always, but to an extent, it is a fact that the degrading status of a the degrading status of a teacher in the society may cause certain type of a misbehavior or indiscipline into the classroom. So how should you handle this? I would like the participants to give their thoughts on this question. Anybody? You can even write in the chat box, or you can even speak up.
Yes, one by one, any participant can unmute yourself and you can reply to this question. Yes, participants should be active in this faculty development programs, we hope.
This is also a part of a classroom management.
Teacher should be the friend. Teacher
Very
should
good.
behave like, in a friendly
Friends,
manner.
yes. Very good. If we have a very good, as I told you, the cordial relationship, a teacher should be a friend. And we are aware about the definition which is given in the education, that is, teacher should be a friend, philosopher, and guide. Then only you can handle the students. Very good. Any other? I also would like to learn many things from you people, because you all are experienced in this field.
Teacher should be the facilitator of learning.
Facilitator of a learning. Very good. Not very nice. We should not impose anything on students. Rather, we should facilitate the learning.
Yes, ma'am.
If we facilitate the learning, then the classroom will be a live classroom. And in that case, management itself takes place. Correct. Any other? Okay. Should I move further?
Yes.
Student participation should be more.
Okay, students' participation should be more. It means that active learning should happen into the classroom, right? If students are active, the teacher should be more aggressive. More aggressively, not into a negative connotation, but into a positive connotation. Teacher should be more active to engage the students all the time throughout you are in the classroom. Correct. See, these are certain management strategies. उसमें first है follow a routine. Very, very important, because I use one word, that is discipline. Discipline not always on the part of the students, but discipline even on the part of a teacher is also very important for classroom management, right? So we must, even I as a teacher, should also follow a certain routine which has been given by institution. Say, for example, the timetable and the syllabus and everything is managed by the institutional part. So we must follow that routine, and certain routine we should have with our students. The moment I enter into a class, I must have a certain activity like introducing a topic in a different manner, maybe a storytelling, maybe a questioning, answering, maybe a certain putting forward a certain type of an example or a situation in front of the students, and then I ask the questions. And this way, I can have a certain planned routine into my class, which will definitely give you a very good active engagement on a part of a student. Second is involve students in rule setting. This is also important because it will also show a democracy of a teacher. If I'm formalizing a norms of my classroom, then I have to formalize certain standards. It means a certain type of rules which is to be followed in my class or into a class where I'm talking with my students. So when I'm setting those rules, it is a best technique. I must say that I must involve my students into this rule setting. It will give you a very good democratic approach, and student will find a certain type of ownership into a class, that my teacher is involving me into rule setting. Once the rule setting is being done with the help of the students, with active participation of the students, among students and teacher, I say that breaking those rules will be a very, very, very less. And in that case, your classroom is very well managed. Third, make your lesson very enjoyable, right? So if students are enjoying, if I am enjoying my teaching into a classroom, then my students will enjoy learning. If I don't feel like teaching with wholeheartedly, certainly student will bored. They will find certain other strategy to handle your class, or they may find certain other strategy to distract your class. So better, we always should have a very joyous and enjoyable classroom environment. Then the fourth is use positive language when you set your classrooms. Because language is very, very important. We know that knowingly or unknowingly also, we should not hurt anybody with our words, right? So this is also one, concept when we are talking about ahimsa, right? So our language should not be very offensive, which will hurt anybody, because our students are also a human being. And as I told you earlier in one of the slides, that is self-esteem of a student should be very well taken care of. So the language should be very positive, politing, and at the same time, I must say that in a positive connotation again, a commanding, because here we have to taking care of an entire classroom. Then develop a meaningful relationship with your students. We have already talked about it. Be considerate when giving grades. So when there is a matter of assessment, we should be fair enough to assess our students. There should not be any type of a biases should be involved into an assessment technique. Now, these are the two things. Effective teacher manage their classrooms and moderate teacher manage the discipline, right? So when we are talking about effective teacher, they act into orderly manner because they plan their learning activities. They plan their class before going to the class. So planning is very important. Then to act strictly according to the principles. Why strictly? Because we have put forward certain rules to the class or certain norms to the class, right? So we have to adhere to those norms which I as a teacher have put forward with the help of students to establish the obedience. And we are talking about the moderate teacher. They are controlling the class. So managing the class and controlling the class, these two are altogether two different types of concepts. Because if you try to control your class, it means that you try to impose certain things. And when you are imposing, then it becomes a difficult thing. But when you are trying to engaging everyone and we are trying to make your students actively participate in your class, it will be a definitely effective managed class. Then comes the another concept, that is classroom climate. What exactly it is? It is the intellectual, social, and physical environment where students can learn by the product of social interaction between and among teachers and students. There are three important things. First is intellectual, social, and physical environment. Intellectual environment means as a teacher, how intellectually and logically with suitable examples I am put forwarding my topic in front of the students. Because when we are dealing with the higher education students, they also are very much exposed to a different sources of knowledge. So here, instead of lecturing everything, it is always a better approach to discuss and deliberate amongst the students. So the intellectual environment, the social environment, why? Because all students in our classroom are coming from a different types of a societal environment. Social status are different, family type is a different, social climate is different, geographical locations are different. So the societal environment which is happening in the classroom is also very important. So it is a part and it is a humble responsibility of a teacher to make that social environment very congenial to each and every students to make your classroom very effective, right? We have a very diverse students sitting in front of us, and we have to managing this diversity in such a manner that from this diversity, there should be a concept called unity should come up. If that comes up, your classroom is 100% effectively managed. And the third is physical environment. In this physical environment comes like the sitting arrangement, then the distance between the students sitting and the blackboard or maybe the presentation, whatever I am using it, right? Everything, the physical infrastructure of a classroom comes here. So this three is very important in the classroom climate, that is intellectual climate, social climate, and physical environment. Now here we have seen that certain interaction is happening up and product of that interaction is a learning. right? So learning happening up with the interactions. So interaction between students and students, interaction between students and teacher. So this interaction also depends, as we have already discussed, that the friendship and relationship among students and teacher as well as the peer. Now, positive classroom climate. It is always supportive, means all students, those who are sitting in front of you and you as a teacher, are very much supportive to each other. Democratic. Each and everyone should get an equal opportunity to share their ideas, to share that concerns, to share that feelings. Then only the climate will be democratic. Then integrating, you have to integrate again everyone's opinion, everyone's learning, everyone's understanding, because the cognitive ability of students also differ from a person to person. Then the classroom climate should be open for discussion, open for deliberation, open even for criticisms, because from criticism also we learn many things. So it should be open and a conducive for everyone. Then there will be a friendship, then there will be a congenial relationship, and the climate will be considered as a positive. Negative, these are certain characteristics of a negative climate I have listed here. That is, it is very defensive, autocratic, restrictive, dominative, and authoritative. Here we understand that the effective teacher, how they manage their classroom, and how certain teachers, if they are not in a position to manage, they control the classroom. So when you are going into a control, it is more an authoritative type of an approach. So classroom management is a process of manipulating students' behavior for the optimum output and the productivity. Because when I'm planning my lessons, when I'm planning my classroom activity, why I am planning? The planning is the process of that 45 or 1 hour, which we have in our hand, should go into a proper manner, and the productive work, the product, that is learning occurring on a part of students as well as on a part of a teacher, should be a very positive learning. So our classroom will be positive, considerate learning environment that fosters academic excellence and respect for others. All students will strive to do their best, both academically and behaviorally, to promote the success of everyone in the class, right? Sometimes it happens that once the students have a very good friendship among themselves and teachers, we all have experienced in our life that if certain students are weak in certain concept, their friends help themselves, right? They can go to their friends, especially in research activity, which we are experiencing is that when they have to write a research report, and each and every university have their different types of a mandate for the language, then in which language they can write the report, depending upon the university's statutory ordinance. So if the students, say for example, is coming for a vernacular medium and they are studying into an English medium college, so the translation is the first and foremost difficulty the students face. This is the activity wherein they would like to take maximum help from their peers, right? So if the good relationship is developed into the classroom, that student will feel open to discuss with their students for their language barriers. And this language barrier, I have experienced this, the language barrier can be taken care of to a great extent if students have a very good friendship. They can even come to the teacher and ask for a certain things. This is just an example I have given for the language barrier. There are many other type of things which will be taken care into this output, I mean the process and output part of a classroom interactions. Classroom management refers to all the things a teacher does to organize students, space, time, and material so that students' learning can take place. Right? So here certain things are that is organizing, first of all, space, the area of a classroom which we have with us, the time which we have with us, and the material from which I'm going to teach or from which I'm going to conduct an activity. So to organizing all these things, and that also comes into a planning, is very important. And the picture, I think, speaks about it. If all these things are organized into a proper manner, the classroom can certainly be managed. There are certain interactive factors like students' interest, their ability, their motivation, their initiation, expectation, limits, and goals. Each and every one, those who comes to us to learn certain things, they do have their goals. Say, for example, a student is taking an admission into a bachelor degree. He or she has primary goal to complete that degree. That is the first goal everyone will have. And to complete that degree in effective manner, they should have certain expectations from a particular institution, from a particular teacher, and a particular curriculum. So their interest, their ability, their expectation, everything, if it can be taken care into a classroom, certainly they will have a wonderful learning. For teacher also, the subject which I am teaching, the subject which I am delivering a class, the methods which I am using to deliver a particular content, the media I am using. Say, for example, if I am showing certain video clip, if I am showing certain charts, anything which I'm using has to have a relationship with the content which I am talking, and that particular media should be interactive enough for the students. Then only it can have an interesting learning. Then the expectation of a teacher, because if I feel so that I have to take a class today, I must have a certain expectation. What are those expectations? For that, I have set an objective into my planning, that the students will be able to, say, for example, understanding, say, for example, to apply the knowledge, say, for example, to appreciate certain ideas of a thinker, whatever it may be. So that expectation, that is the objective of a lesson. If that can be matched at the end of the lesson, I'm sure that the classroom will be effective. Then the activities which I'm carried out into a classroom, that is also a very interactive factor. The most important is time management, right? Because as I said, time management makes a lots and lots of the things to be doing into the classroom. It is a concept, it is a thing which can make your classroom a more effective, and it is the only thing which will act as a barrier in managing the class, right? So I have to, first of all, learn how to manage my time. If I have been given 1 hour, how should I manage them? So for that, there are certain concept which is given into a time management. First is available time with me, right? It is a 1 hour class or a 40-minute class or a 50-minute class. That is the available time. Then the next term is allocated time. So allocated time means from this 1 hour, how much time I'm allotting to interactions or to instruction into the classroom, because I have to teach certain concepts. So to teach that certain concept, how much time I am allocating to instruction. Then engage time. Engage time means wherein I am engaging my students into the learning activities or maybe the teaching learning process. It can be a discussion, it can be a questioning, it can be an activity, or it can be a project, or it can be a presentation. So the engage time. Then the thing is transition time. Transition time means from introducing my topic to closing my topic, there are so many steps which I am following. So from one step to the other, the time which is taking place is known as a transition time. So if I am able to manage my time, the total time, into all these aspects, the time management for a particular classroom will be very good. It's a very crucial and cannot be reversed, cannot be preserved. And third important is cannot be purchased. So whatever time I'm available with me, I must manage it into a certain manner that each and activity which I have planned, or each and every instruction I would like to give, or each and every topic which I would like to teach on a particular day should be done in an effective manner. It has certain barriers, that is distance, delay, and denial. Now, role of a teacher in managing the time. Planning the time, budgeting the time, identifying the boredom of the students, changing the methodology as per the time period and interest of the students, changing the speed as per the student's pace. These are certain strategies. First is start early. Start early means the dot time which I have been given. I should not again encroach someone else's time, because if you are an effective teacher, you must start your class at a given point of a time and you must end at the given point of a time, because we know that we all are academicians. So it has been said that the speaker who had been allotted a particular period of a time, and if you exceed that time, sometimes may not be find a good speaker, maybe sometimes he or should be given considered as a boring personality also. So we must start early, that is establish a classroom routine and prevent conflict instead of putting out the fires. Second is engage your student, that is active, interested students. Third is relate. We must relate the classroom learning with the daily life of an individual. If you can relate these topics to the daily living, if you can relate to the societal context, if you can relate to the dynamism into the country, if you can relate your topic with the international advancements or something happening up, it is always a welcome strategy. Then move around. It so happened that once we enter into the class, and if we are stuck near to the boardroom, sometimes it happens. I'm not saying that all the teachers are doing that, but sometimes, knowingly or unknowingly, it happens that teacher is sticking to a one particular position into the class. So we should not do that. We must have a moving around type of an approach or a strategy to be implemented into the classroom. The best advantage of it is each and every, you can connect yourself with each and every student of your classroom. If you keep, it should, when I'm saying that move around, it should not be too much of moving, it should not be too much of a part. So you must know the skill of stimulus variation into the classroom, that you should have a certain rounds in the classroom wherein you can connect yourself with each and every students, and the best part of it, even you can observe that what your students are learning and how much they have learned. Then to use the sign language. Sign language means the skill of non-verbal clues, because we know that sometimes even the silence speaks louder than the words. So we know that how much nodding is required, how much silence is required, how much pause is required into your classroom, because sometimes certain pauses are important for students to absorb the learning. So sign language is also equally important. Here, the definitions for the plan and strategies are given. Plan, we know that it's a structured framework. Strategies means specific techniques within the framework of a classroom management plan to address the specific issue and achieve the goals at the end of the class. This is just a conceptual definitions of a classroom management plan and classroom management activities. Only three things. The scope, that is classroom rule, routine, procedure, discipline policy, method of creating an engaging and respectful classroom atmosphere, behavioral intervention procedure. Here, the scope in classroom strategy means Methods for promoting students' engagement, fostering positive relationship, addressing students' misbehavior, enhancing instructional effectiveness, and many other things which we are doing into a classroom management strategies. The purpose of planning is provide a proactive and organized approach to manage the classroom, reduce disruptions, and promoting a conducive environment. Here, the purpose for strategies are serves as a day-to-day tool that teacher use to maintain order, facilitate learning, and respond effectively to the needs of the students. What is the need of a student into the classroom? It is always a learning. Sometimes they do have a certain kids, certain students, they have a tendency that they will definitely convey you that you should listen to us. So that can also be a need of the students. So different types of needs of a student should be addressed through the strategy which I adopt to manage the classroom is one of the purpose of it. These are certain characteristics of a very well-managed classroom. Students are deeply involved into the learning and their work. Students know what is expected from them and are generally successful in that. There is a relatively little wasted time, confusion, and distractions. The climate of a classroom is work-oriented but relaxed and pleasant. Everyone is working but into a relaxed classroom environment. This is a few characteristics which I felt is for a well-managed classroom. Here, it is given into a pictorial form. It is regularity in the rules and regulations of the classroom, clear and fair assessment, student-centered learning, student engagement, effective housekeeping, and authentic connections. Right? These are also a few characteristics of an effective classroom management. As I told you, the physical environment, here the housekeeping I have taken because I felt it is very important. If your classroom is clean and pleasant, certainly you will feel good to be there into that particular room. And we can even have a feeling of social responsibility if we feel that this is my classroom and it is my duty to make it more clean, positive for my students. Now, principles of classroom management. When we are talking about principles, there are certain principles which will help us. If we follow this principle, this will help us to make our classroom very effective. The first principle is principle of clarity and mastery over the content. That is teachers' command over subject. I have already spoken certain things about it. So teachers' command over subject is very important. As a teacher, if I don't know the concept well, how will I teach that? How will I plan my activities? How will I engage my students? How I will expect my higher education students to research on that? So the clarity and content mastery is very, very, very important. The students are generally influenced by a well-read, knowledgeable teacher. One of my professor, I do remember him today also, he used to say a very good teacher always should have a book in his or her hand, and that book is not only for show off, but you should whenever you find a time and place to read, you must read that things. Why reading is important for a teacher? If I have the habit of reading continuously, not only the concept reading, but even at times the motivational and general reading, I will have a definite understanding about my concept, wherein, as I told you, that I can relate my concept to this advancement into that particular field. If I'm talking about, if I'm teaching a research methodology to my students in an education, then as a teacher, I must know that how much research is going into an educational field. What are the new current emerging areas of a research? What are the new fantastic methods of a research are coming up into the field? So the content mastery is very important, and well knowledgeable teacher who can definitely certainly communicate your knowledge to the students in an effective manner is always considered as a very good teacher to manage the class. Then the next come is the principle of participation and involvement. One of you also rightly said that it should be active learning, it should be a participatory learning. If the learning is participatory, I will also enjoy. But now what happens that I will keep on talking and talking and talking, but how much that instructions are absorbing into the mind of the students will not be understood by a teacher. And at the end of the class, the learning objective which you have designed may be achieved or may not be achieved. So to make sure that to achieve those learning objectives, my learning activity should be participatory enough. Active involvement of a students into an instructional task is a condition of a learning. If my students are not actively engaged, they will certainly not learn into a proper manner. So this is the first condition of learning. Then the skill of questioning, the skill of probing. We are familiar with all the skills of organizing our teaching. So the questioning, the probing, giving feedback is also an important for a participatory learning. If I give away, the thorough feedback to my students, especially in higher education, when we are dealing with the research, when we are dealing with the guide check, we must know that how our students should be given a constructive feedback to make their understanding more crystal clear and to apply their knowledge to a particular field of research, right? So participatory learning is very important. The third is the principle of warmth and enthusiastic. This also deals with your affective relationship with the students. If your students feel like talking to you, if your students feel like they're discussing their problems with you, let it be a hostel problem, let it be a family problem, but the students should feel that they are feeling certain warmth with a teacher to come and discuss, then it becomes very important. So this is a personal attribute of a teacher, that the sympathy, empathy, warmth, self-discipline. This will even teach your students that which type of a teacher or which type of an individual students must become. Then comes the principle of action. We all are very much aware about the proverb that the action speaks louder than the words. If I'm very good planner, but if I cannot execute it, if I cannot put it into an action, the planning has no meaning. So principle of action to manage the classroom, your action, your command, your activity should be wonderful. Principle of flexibility. Flexibility, why it is important? Because you have to accommodate each and every behavior of a student in your classroom. If I am there into a classroom for 1 hour and there are different types of a behavior coming up from the students, so you have to accommodate each and every that behavior, and for that the flexibility should be there in the behavior of a teacher to accommodate students' idea, their observations, their plan. They should feel flexible to speak up. They should feel flexible to discuss among their peers also. So this type of a flexible environment should be there into a classroom. The flexibility is also an alternative strategy to achieve the curriculum objective. Because if we are dealing with a higher education, the mature students, each and every curriculum, each and every course of a higher education it also has its learning objectives to be taken care of. You have your unit objectives, you have your curriculum objectives. So this flexibility can be a wonderful thing if we adopt in our day-to-day teaching learning activities. Then the firmness. Firmness means principle of firmness. When I'm talking about it, I must know that what I'm going to do into the classroom. I should have a firm and consistent behavior in my classroom. As a teacher, if I reflect that, certainly the student will definitely learn the values like commitment towards a particular task to be completed. So commitment, they will learn from your from your behavior. They will learn the self-control from your firmness and consistency. So the principle is firmness is also very important. Then the principle of adjustment and harmony. Your class must be well adjusted and well harmonized in terms of a positive learning takeaways. Then principle of democracy or fostering democratic behavior. We know that we are in a democratic country, and democracy is a way of life. It is a working with each other to achieve a common goal. What is the common goal of a teacher and students when we are talking about classroom management? Can I have an answer of it from the participants?
Yes,
To asking the question, yes, please.
Participants are requested to unmute yourself so you can give the answer positively. Do not hesitate in this interactive session. Participants can give answer in the chat box as well as you can unmute yourself. Yes, ma'am, you can directly answer.
Yeah, I will.
Ask to unmute the question.
Yes.
You can directly speak the participant's name also, they will be unmuting.
Yes. See, the common goal when I'm talking about for a teacher and students into a classroom, that, as I told you, that we are planning certain objectives, learning objectives before starting my class. So what is the common goal for a student and teachers or a faculty and the student is to achieve those objectives at the end of the class. Means a positive learning must happen at the end of my class or at the end of the class. This is I consider as a common goal. So if I have the democratic environment in my class, it will give you a healthy, positive attitude among students, because at times we have to deal with the critics. So when we are dealing with the criticism, if we have a democracy for each and everyone to express their ideas, to express their viewpoint, to express their opinion, then your classroom will certainly be managed very well. And it will, as I told you, foster a positive, healthy attitude and positive, healthy learning environment into the classroom. So we must provide an equal opportunity for each and every participants to participate into a learning process. These are I have bifurcated this principles into a certain categories. First is cognitive concern, when we are dealing with the head, wherein the intellectual ability has to be applied. So these are the two principles in that. Then socio-emotional concern. These are the four principles. This is my own understanding and my own perception. Everyone will have an opinion on this. So these are certain the principle in socio-emotional concern. Affective concern, these two principles falls into the category of affective concern. Now I'm moving ahead. Classroom management, in that what is the teacher's role? First of all, see, make a good impression. How we can impress a people? A teacher, as I have said and as I have understood, as I have observed my teachers, are very good teachers, as I have read certain things into books, a good impression of a teacher will always be there if you are well prepared for your class. If you have a very, very good content mastery, and if you have a very good skill to organize your class. So first of all, you must make a very good impression, then come with enthusiasm and excitement. If a teacher is not excited, if a teacher is not enthusiastic, how we expect our students who are sitting in front of us, seeing our dull faces, to be enthusiastic? See, sometimes, all these things may sounds very common for an experienced teacher. I understand that. But we know that it is very important. We should carry an same type of enthusiasm. When I go to the class every day, let me have an experience of 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, doesn't make any difference if I'm not enthusiastic in my class. If I feel so that yes, I'm very experienced, now what type of things I should do, then the learning stops. If teachers' learning stops, the classroom learning will also come to an particular stagnation type of a condition. So the enthusiasm on a part of a teacher is very important. Then we have to address certain problems directly and immediately. Many a times it happens that many types of problems from a students come, say for example, I'm just giving an example. It doesn't mean that this is a thumb rule. Some students are facing some problem into their family. They do have certain family problems or certain family certain type of adversities or some illness is going on into a family, because I have faced this problem during the COVID, because many students, they were discussing that some of their immediate family member is affected with the COVID, and this type of a problem do create interruption into a class. Interruption in what context? That particular student who know that my immediate family member is facing a COVID situation and I have a patient in my home, the student may not be in a position to understand or to learn very properly into a classroom. So these are, I'm just giving, again, I'm telling you, this is certain an example I'm giving. So this type of a problem is a direct problem. It has to be addressed immediately. So what I will do at that time as a teacher, it will my role to make that student very much calm. I have to counsel that student to understand the concept which I'm going to teach, because that student cannot, they cannot have an absence for a longer period of time. It will also affect that learning. To make that students very calm and controlled at that position of a time, to counsel him or her and make that students learning the concept during a class. Then, know the power of proximity. You can accomplish more through your body language than your voice. As I told you, the use of a non-verbal clue can also be a strategy to manage your classroom. Sometimes your body language speaks aloud. How I am appearing in front of my students through my gestures is very important. So we must have that understanding as a teacher to understand our own body language to make our class more positive. See, we have to manage the learning process and we have to prevent the undesirable behaviors, because it is not always necessary that whatever I am teaching, whatever activity I am conducting, how much participatory it may be, but there are certain undesirable behaviors which comes into the class. This is certain, we are experiencing this things. So you must know that how to prevent or how to control those behavior. To why we have to control or to prevent? Because the plan which I have made should not be entirely affected by this undesirable behaviors, right? So this is also an important thing as a role of a teacher. Then model behavior, if you expect a model behavior from your students, you should behave very thoroughly, very properly with them. So mutual respect, active listening, interest in learning, All these things are very, very important. I must give a due respect to my student as an individual. If I can do that, then only I'll get a respect. Otherwise, we don't feel this type of a cohesive relationship between students and teachers. Non-verbal cue we have already discussed. Then focus. Our focus on a content. Our focus on managing our activities to communicate those concepts. Our focus for effective curriculum completion. Our focus for effective examination appearing and effective examination completion. So focusing should be very important. The attention needs to be given on each and every aspect of it. Planning. Don't be so much, over expectation from a children will also create a problem on a part of a teacher. These are certain barriers to the classroom. That is physical factor, maybe illness on a part of it. I'm sorry, not illness, but physical factors means the classroom facilities, institutional related factors, students related factor, academic factor, social factor, and teacher related factor. Physical factor means the infrastructural facility. Institution related problem means there are certain problems coming up from an institution sometimes. It is not always. To carry out the yearly activity on a stipulated period of time. Say, for example, if my institution has planned an academic visit of a students in the month of January, say, for example, maybe on 17th and 18th of January, but due to certain unavoidable situation, the institution has to change the plan. And it so happened that the institution may not be in a position to carry out that visit further. So these are certain factors which will definitely affect the learning environment due to the classroom. So this is just an example I'm giving. Then student related factors. Say, as I told you, students are not interested. If one or two students may not finding physically well in your classroom, they do have some other type of emotional problems. These are comes under the student related problem. Then academic factor. Academic factor means your content, your mastery over its content, your academic professional upgrading, how much you are well built with your profession, how much you have upgraded into your professional career, into your field. Your academic factors affect the classroom. Then the social factor, certain type of a diversity or certain type of abnormalities going into a near society that also will influence the students. Or say, for example, some very good festival in Gujarat, especially we have a Navratri, all 9 days of a festival. This is also a societal factor because students are into a festive mood. So you also have to manage your activity in such a manner that their mood should be taken care of. So this can be a societal factor. Then teacher related factor. If a teacher himself or herself is, first of all, maybe not well, that can be one of the things. The teacher maybe well not prepared, maybe one of the things. The teacher at times may be overboard with lots and lots of responsibility. That can also be a factor. So these are certain factors which will affect your classroom management. Here, this is certain examples. I have just tried to put forward this into a statement type of a problem. Like, for example, physical barrier, classroom are overcrowded at times. This is one of the example. Not enough space for taking round into a classroom. कभी-कभी क्या होता है, the classroom size is too small. So moving into a classroom for a teacher becomes a barrier. I have just tried my level best to put these barriers into a statement form. More number of windows or doors at times also distract. Then more number of students sit on a one bench. Say, for example, if we have a bench which capacity is 2 students per bench, if 3 students are sitting, certainly they will not feel comfortable in their sitting, and certainly so that they cannot concentrate on the learning, right? So we are observing nowadays in many of the higher education institutions, we have a benches with the chairs. Right? I'm moving ahead. because I think my time is ending within 5 or 10 minutes, and I will try my level best to complete this. This is school, it is not school, but the institution related problem. So student teacher ratio is very important. Many of the institution have a huge number of students, we have already discussed. Then absence of disciplinary policies. If certain type of a misconduct is happening in your classroom, what is the disciplinary action taken against? Maybe the student, maybe the teacher, whatever it may be, whosoever is involved in it. So the absence of disciplinary policies. Then location of the institution. Maybe the institution is located into a very noisy or the crowded area. It will also affect the learning. Then over strict discipline is also very, very, very greatest barrier to the effective classroom management. This is student related factors. Students go to the tuition classes. I know that I am talking to the higher education students. We know that students do have their own ways of acquiring knowledge. And nowadays, the major, distraction which we are finding is media. I'm coming to that. These are certain example. Academic factors, that is time allotted, freedom provided to the students, flexibility which we decide into the teaching learning process. Certain things, the semester system at times. Social factors, sociological, different social backgrounds of the students, interference of the management, interference of the parents, and social political environment of a particular society. Teachers rated time, no time management, not prepared, not able to identify the need of the students, no proper voice modulation. Why voice modulation is important? Because when I'm teaching, I know that which point is to be stressed while speaking. If I stress that, it conveys that my teacher would like to say something important to me. So voice modulation, this is just an example. Teaching as a profession was not maybe a choice of a teacher and by force he or she has come. So these are communication skill of a teacher. These are certain teacher related factors. Here I have given the research data for a media influence on classroom. In 2012, one of the researchers has found that 53% of undergraduate students at a time that they reported that they are text messaging during the classroom. So this text message, it can be, they are chatting, it means that, right? This is another example, 99 college students doing 20 minutes lecture. This all are the research data. I am not speaking that. This is the research which is being conducted and I have put forward in my presentations. Then the time to use the cell phone for each and every student has increased to a great extent that can also distract the classroom, right? See here, this Heinrich in 2014, he has reported that use of cell phone has increased in the decline of a overall performance or overall grade of students. So grades of students are affecting, it means their learning is affecting, right? Because after all, at the end of the particular year, we are assessing them using cell phone in a classroom. Media learning. Many studies are conducted on it, right? This is Flinders Interaction Analysis category system. I just would like to know that from the teachers, those who are right now there, how many of you are aware of this technique? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, your voice is audible.
Yes.
But all participants, you are requested to unmute yourself for question or answer sessions.
See, my concern to know this is if you are available, if you are aware of this Flinders Interaction Analysis category, I will not move deep into it and we can conclude the session timely.
Yes, no worry.
Yeah, I'm not aware. You can carry on.
Yes,
Yes,
participant,
madam.
you can unmute
I'm
yourself
not aware.
and reply.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
See.
madam, also I am not aware of this. I would like to go in deep insight of this Flanders interaction analysis category system.
Thank you, madam. So, this system was given by Ned Flanders. He defines this as, this is basically, I will just give you a simple brief about it. This is basically related to the interactions happening amongst the students and teacher, right? So the circular interaction is happening into a classroom. So this category will allow a student to understand the flow of the relationship, interaction, or the direction of the interactions. And with the help of this, if we analyze, if as a teacher, if I analyze the different dimensions and directions of interaction in my class, I can accordingly engage my students with a particular activity wherein the interaction flow should be thorough and proper. This is just a gist of it. The definition which has been given by Flanders is teaching as an interactive process. Interaction means participation of a teacher and the student in a process of a learning. Both should have an important amount of a participation during the class in the interaction process. Just a minute. Can I escape from this sharing right now so that I can share a PDF, sir?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Directly click on reshare. Open
Yes.
PDF first and click on reshare.
Click on?
Click on reshare directly. First of all, open that PDF file.
Yeah.
Minimize that PowerPoint file.
Yes.
You can also use the Windows key.
Just a minute. Is this PDF visible to you all?
Yes, it's visible now.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. See, this is the definition which I have just now talked. It was given by Flanders. And here is the diagram wherein T represent the teacher, S is the students who are sitting in front of us. Maybe you have n number of students. Here to explain this diagram, it has been taken 4 students. So, in the process of teaching, everybody interact with every other person who are involved into this process. And this is very important, first of all, for a participatory learning, for active learning, for a democratic understanding into the class, for a flexibility. So all those principles which we have talked about, even the concept clarity and content mastery, even the understanding of a students understanding of a content, everything happens in this circular motion. So the Flanders has designed a technique which is known as interaction analysis category system to understand that how an interaction is going on into my class. So how you can influence your students? Certain things this has been written into this category. That is, you can lecture, you can ask questions, you can criticize, you can give direction, you can ask them to give an opinion, and then based on opinion you can give. You can even give them, as I told you, higher education ke students hai, the presentation, the research question you can put forward, and how the interaction is happening in your classroom. What interaction analysis means? The interaction analysis means a process of encoding and decoding a pattern of interaction between the communicator and the receiver. The communicator and receiver can be students and student. The communicator and receiver can be student and teacher. This diagram, if we see that, this is the communication between a communicator and a receiver. Now, how this encoding helps? It helps in recording the event in a meaningful way, and decoding is useful to arrange the data into a useful way and to analyze the behavior and interaction which is happening into a classroom. Right? These are the 4 important techniques, systems. But from this, right now, we are just talking about the Flinders Interaction Analysis Category System. Now, these are certain characteristics which has been put forward here. It is the verbal interaction and made the more effective. Now, I'm just going through it. In this, there are 10 categories are mentioned. You all can see here. Teacher talk, 7 category, pupil talk, 2 category, and silence or confusion, 1 category. I will directly show you the flow chart of it so that you people can understand. Teachers categories as teacher talk, 7 category. First is indirect and second is direct. Under indirect, accept feelings. Second, praise and encouragement, because reward is also very important. Accept or use ideas of a pupil in your teaching learning process. Ask question. These are the categories which comes into the indirect talk. Direct category, how he has classified, that is lecture, means what right now I am doing, lecturing. Then give directions. When you are discussing the things, when you are debating with your students, you have to give a direction to the certain points. That is give direction. 7 is criticizing or justifying the authority. So these are the 7 categories which Flender has given for a teacher's talk, means whatever I am talking into my classroom, under this particular category. Now for pupil talk, he has given 2 categories. First is pupil talk response and pupil talk initiation. How they respond and how they initiate. Because when I'm talking about that circular diagram, students should also initiate their viewpoint, their discussion, and their participation. So response and initiation comes into the pupil talk. And third, we said that silence and pause, or at times a confusion, because during discussion it happens that certain things, certain points which emerge out of a discussion, wherein we find certain confusion, that also has to be taken care of. So this is how Flinders has given a flow chart for a teacher, pupil, and silence or confusion. Now, here the meaning of all these categories have been given. I'm now moving ahead. All the 7. Now, how we can observe. So you have to observe and you have to coding certain things, that is encoding and decoding. For that also, the process has mentioned here. And these are the rules for observation or coding and decoding. Or you at times you have to even recode and decode. So these are the rules listed here. Sorry, due to the time, I am not able to move into all this point by point. Then we have to construct a matrix, that who has participated for how many times, right? So after constructing a matrix, it deals with the frequencies also, frequency only. This is the formula. After this, we have to come to the result and the ratio, that who has participated with whom at how many times. So at the end of our entire analysis, a teacher will understand the interaction is happening into a which particular direction. So these are the certain advantage of using this. It is an effective tool to measure the socio-emotional climate into a classroom. right? So if I say that, say for example, out of 15 students, 5 students interaction is too much amongst them only, and they are not talking much with the other students. As a teacher, I can understand that there is a certain type of a problem which is happening, and I have to modify their behavior. If I feel that say for example, out of 15, 2 students are not talking to that teacher, means that flowchart is not much completed, therein I can understand that this 2 student may have certain type of a barriers to come to the teacher. So from this mathematical analysis, I can understand the flow of interaction, the direction of interaction in my classroom. And this is very logical in nature. It also used for in service to, advantages are listed here. You all can go through it. Correct? Now I'm again moving on to the PPT. So Flanders, we have already talked. These are assumptions of a Flander. Categories, I have already talked about it. So I'm not going into it. Now this is again a very important, strategy, that is listening. We have discussed about it, that we must listen to our students. Let them talk related to your study, related to their study, related to your classroom interaction, related to their own concept, related to their own problem, let it be anything, their friendship, everything. But we must listen to the students. Fairness, firmness, and consistency. These are the 3 important values for classroom management. If we do not have this 3 in our own self, the classroom cannot be managed. Training for a teacher for this is very important. Again, here is the question, but I will not go into it. And finally, I would like to say that we are all aware about the Gurukul system in ancient India, how a guru used to manage the classroom. It was a residential schools, all students, all prince coming from a different kingdom, they are staying with their friends, and how they were learning, how the gurus used to conduct the learning, their methods of teaching, their methods of observing the students, their methods of assessing the students is very, very, I must say, and apt and very encouraging. For this, thank you, everyone.
Yes, please. Now, if the participants, if you have any queries or questions regarding today's presentations, you can unmute yourself. Yes, someone has raised a hand. David.
Yes, someone has raised. Yes.
Please unmute yourself. Participants can unmute yourself and you can ask your queries or questions related to today's topic and session.
Madam, good afternoon. The session is really very good and very informative, and really it keeps me engaged. May I know that, may I get the PDF of this you were telling, because it was very fast about the Flanders interaction theory, and it is very informative and very useful. So
yes, ma'am, I got the point. Thank you very much for praising me, madam. I will certainly share this, information for this Flanders interaction analysis with the sir, and they will circulate to you all. Surely I'll do that, ma'am.
thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I think someone has raised the hand.
Yes, any other participants?
Yeah.
Question, queries, one by one, unmute yourself.
Shall I stop sharing?
Yes, it is already there. Yes, please unmute yourself.
Is done.
Participants, you can unmute yourself and ask questions. Any participants, if you have any queries, questions related to today's sessions, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you so much, madam. Your presentation was so nice and it was very simple and the clarity was there. That's why it was very meaningful to us. I think teacher must be skilled so that classroom management will be happen, classroom will be managed in a better way by the teacher.
Yes, madam, you are absolutely right. That is why in between I was mentioning that certain skills of teaching, like introduction and closure, explanation with example, illustrations, right? Questioning and probing. These all are the skills. Even teacher must have a skill to deal with the misconduct or misbehavior in the class. This is also
Yes,
a
madam.
skill teacher should also know and are skillful enough that how to, deal with the authority and the students and managing the things. You are absolutely right, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. You're so much nice presentation and
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, madam. Just now I saw one question into a chat box that how you can connect to me. Of course, sir is there, the society is there. You can connect to me. And my introduction is already given. I am an assistant professor in Central University of Gujarat. So this is how also you can contact me. Thank you so much.
Yes, participants, you can check the chat box. We have already sent the contact number details and the links.
Any other questions?
And I have said the contact details. You can contact us,
Yes.
call or WhatsApp. And the institutions, those who are seeking for the collaboration or MOU with us, are also welcome. Conducting upcoming research programs throughout the year. You can visit the website researchculturesociety.org.
Sir, if no further queries, shall we close the session?
Yes, ma'am, will give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you, everyone. And I would definitely like to have a more learning from your side. Thank you so much. Yeah, one question
Thank
I
you
just
so
now
much,
said
ma'am.
that recommend, yes, recommend some books. See, I will definitely share certain name of the books, but one wonderful book on classroom management is written by Jyoti Christian. It is a very beautiful book. You can definitely go through and read to it, and you will understand how the classroom is being organized, managed, planned, and everything. It's a very good book by Jyoti Christian. Classroom Management by Jyoti Christian. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good evening to one and all. On behalf of the organizing committee, I extended my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for gracing the inaugural session of this national level faculty development program with your presence and wisdom. Dr. Shilpa Popat, the keynote speaker, captivating us with her profound thoughts and visionary ideas. Her address has undoubtedly set the stage for fruitful discussion. Ma'am told us about the effective classroom management technique and the different ways to how to manage the classroom, because the classroom is a place where the student can spend maximum time. So we have to manage the classroom very effectively. Thank you once again, ma'am. And we took forward for this faculty development program filled with the enriching discussion and meaningful interactive session. Wishing everyone a successful and rewarding FDP ahead. We will again meet tomorrow at 3 p.m. for the next session by Dr. Namrata Kamble. Thank you so much, everyone, for your presence and for your patience. Thank you.
Yes, all the participants, you are requested to check the chat box link. Feedback form link has been shared in the chat box. Yes.
Participants, please fill the feedback form. This also marks your attendance for the FDP.
You can copy
Thank you, sir. We will meet again tomorrow at 3 p.m. for the next session.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Participants, you are requested to check the chat box. Today's feedback form link has been shared in the chat box. You can copy paste or open that link and fill up the today's feedback as well as your attendance.
क्या भेज रहे ये फीडबैक लिंक ये रहा
Amongst the teacher and students. Certainly, it happens that the students may lose their interest. If they lose their interest, can be a cause of a misbehave into a classroom. Here are some of the examples of a misbehave I have listed. So, going ahead, as I told you, the discipline. They even at times become indisciplined. That is due to lack of leaving